and welcome to the Craft Beer Corner. For today's beer review, we're jumping into the second of the hoppy IPA sampler pack from Sierra Nevada. Well, it's not technically an IPA sampler pack, but it is dominated by IPAs. But regardless, this is the second one that is in that pack that I've never reviewed before. Two of them were ones I've done, and it had two brand new beers in there. Today's beer in question is called Dankful. It is a West Coast style IPA that clocks in at 7.4% ABV, and this one's got a pretty long hop list. It's got Columbus, Chinook, Mosaic, Yukono, Nelson Sauvin, Zappa, and Idaho 7. So a lot of maybe kind of sort of you could call usual suspects, but it's definitely got a few in there that I didn't expect to see. So yeah, West Coast style from Sierra Nevada. They obviously know how to brew a West Coast style IPA very well indeed. This is my personal favorite sub-style. Bigger, bolder, more resinous and intense of hop bitters in the West Coast style of IPA, which I absolutely love. So I'll be curious to see how this compares, say, to their standard Torpedo, a few of their other IPAs, but I'm expecting this to be a big one for big hop lovers. And indeed, they do tell you a little bit on the back about this beer, and it supposedly is really, really quite resinous, hence the name Dankful. So I'm looking forward to this one. Label art on here, nice clean design, green says the name of the beer, and there's hops galore on the label. So definitely get you in the right mindset for a nice hoppy West Coast style IPA. Let's get this poured right in the glass. Okay. Let's slow it down a tick. This one's not having trouble forming a head. I'm just going to slow it down just a bit so we can get the whole thing in there. There we go. Perfect. Yeah, that poured beautifully. Absolutely beautifully. So visually, yeah, this is a deep kind of golden yellow color. It's maybe a little bit darker than your average IPA, but certainly in the standard color wheelhouse. It's got more kind of amber hues to it, but it's a bright gold color. It looks very nice. Pretty active in terms of carbonation. I do see kind of a mix of kind of medium carbonation rising up as well as tight, tiny, fine champagne-like, which clearly helped contribute to this nice, lush, thick, creamy head. So let's just get over this for a full sniff. Oh, yeah. Okay, so they threw a lot of hops in here. It's got a very pronounced aroma, and it smells really, really nice. So I'm getting tropical fruit. I'm getting citrus. I'm getting earthiness. I'm definitely getting resinous undertones. There is definite berry aroma on the nose as well. Could be coming from Mosaic, could be coming from a combination of Mosaic and maybe Idaho 7, maybe Zappa, some others in there, but it smells not just of blueberries, but I'm getting a strong kind of raspberry, strawberry aroma. Nothing on here that really smells floral. It's dominated by citrus and berries and tropical fruit and kind of earthy tones and pine and resin. But it's very nice. It smells fantastic. Big, pungent aromas. Clearly, as well as extracting alphas into this, which I'm expecting that to be the case. They did a good job with whatever dry hopping stage they did. Could also just be coming from the volume of hops that they put in here. We're about to find out. But it looks fantastic. It smells fantastic. Formed a beautiful head. Absolute treat. Let's jump right in. Take one. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a nice IPA, guys. Yeah. West Coast style indeed. It does lean very heavily into the bitters. So before we get into the flavor profile and the nuances here, let's talk about the body. Let's talk about the mouthfeel. The body on this feels a big, full, round medium. It almost starts encroaching on the bottom end of medium heavy, so it's got real presence. And this is nearly 7.5% ABV. It's on the high end of average for kind of a standard IPA. So yeah, it's got more presence. It should. It's got a higher ABV. So it feels really nice. In terms of the mouthfeel, This feels appropriately resistant for the ABV range. No surprises here. This one does get very silky, very creamy when you agitate on the palate. And that resistance, you can really feel it's almost voluptuous as you move it around the mouth. And it does a very good job of coating the palate and really letting these big hop intensities, flavors, and bitters stick all over the palate. It does a great job. So in terms of the flavor profile, well, this definitely is a bitter dominant beer. It is a West Coast style IPA. That was their goal, mission accomplished. It definitely has much more bitter forward intensity than your average IPA. If I had to pick a number, I would guess anywhere from the 60 to 70, 75 range. That's just what it feels like to my palate. It's very clear. It's got a nice hop bittering bite. In terms of the flavor that the hops are bringing to the table, it is indeed exactly as it says on the back of the bottle. It leads very much with a resinous kind of pine, tar flavor profile. That with undercurrents of earthiness, slight subtleties of citrus, slight subtleties of kind of tropical fruit and berry notes, but it's really 90% pine, tar, resin, underlying earthiness. That's where this hop profile is dominating. Everything else is really just ancillary, just little small whispers that pop in and out. Yeah, so I get why they call this beer Dankful. Definitely a West Coast style IPA, and they're absolutely right about this being a very piney and resinous flavor forward beer. With this big laundry list of hops, I'm sure that there were specific ones that they used in greater proportion, as well in specific parts of either their dry hopping phase or the boil to draw out all these aromatics and the specific flavor profile that they wanted, but it's absolutely fantastic. This is an IPA lover's IPA. So I'm going to jump back in for a second sip. We'll let everything re-intensify, pick it apart, make sure I didn't miss any other flavor nuance, then we'll talk about the balance and the finish. Take two. Yeah, I mean, it's immediate. You get this slight burst of fruit on the front side. It's kind of a combination of berries and tropical fruit mixed with very dominant bitters and pine and resin and tar and kind of earthiness. That is the big burst of flavor. In terms of getting anything out of the malt bill on this, it's so heavily hopped, it's so dominated by the hop profile, I can't really detect what the actual nuances are of the malt bill that they used, but whatever the base is, it's a great vessel for building a big beer like this, a big flavorful, flavor-forward beer. The longer time that passes after that initial sip, the more intense that pine and resin and earthy kind of flavor profile comes forward. Also, the more intense the bitters appear to get. And that takes roughly up to about maybe the 20, 30-ish second, and then it kind of plateaus in bittering intensity, holds there for a good while, then it starts its slow, steady descent. So yeah, this really does lean very heavily on pine and tar and resin and earthiness that backs it, with just other little subtleties that float in at various points during the entire experience of each sip, and namely a little bit of tropical, a little bit of berry that kind of float in and out. But once you get to that 30-second mark, it's all pine, tar, resin, earthy, intense bitters as it slowly dissipates. In terms of the balance on this beer, yeah, I would say it's fantastic. They set out to make West Coast IPA, and they did exactly that, and a very, very good one at that. In terms of the finish, it is significantly longer than your average IPA that sits in the 7.4% range, and that's to be expected for a West Coast style IPA. They have a much more prevalent bittering profile. It's just the way that the sub-style was designed, so that hop intensity, that bitter intensity, does absolutely linger longer than most other substyles of IPA. So yes, it's way longer than average. It's, well in excess of a minute and a half, 2 minutes, on the end of each sip before those lingering pine and resin, kind of bitter undertones are finally gone. And this one lingers quite intensely till it's finally gone. Absolute treat of a beer. Guys, if you love West Coast style IPAs as I do, this one is an absolute winner. I'm going to take my time sipping this, come up my scores. When we come back, we will get this beer ranked from top to bottom. All right, now that we've gotten to enjoy this beer, we're going to get it ranked. This was Sierra Nevada Brewing Company's Dankful, a West Coast style IPA clocking in at 7.4% ABV. Sierra Nevada based in Chico, California, and they also have a brewing location in Mills River, North Carolina. So yeah, guys, this was a really, really good beer. This is right up my alley. I love IPAs. West Coast style is my favorite sub-style, and this one did not disappoint. They had a massive, massive hop bill on this. Clearly extracted plenty of aroma because it smelled super complex and layered. Then when you jumped into it, it was everything I love about a classic West Coast style IPA. Big, bold, pungent, in your face, hop flavor and bitterness. It absolutely was phenomenal, and this one almost swept it in all categories. There's only a single category that did not get a perfect score on this beer, and that was the mouthfeel. So the mouthfeel was definitely, what I expected, and I did expect it to be above average, and it certainly was that. But compared to the extra heft that the body had, I would have liked just a little bit more resistance from the mouthfeel. Even though it was very velvety, creamy, smooth when you agitate it on the palate, I would have liked just a little bit more thickness there. But I only docked a couple points. The mouthfeel gets an 8 out of 10. That does, of course, leave a perfect 10 out of 10 for the remaining 9 categories. That's aroma, taste, body, finish, head and retention, appearance, balance, feeling/intangible, my subjective thoughts, and example of style. So the total score on Sierra Nevada's Dankful is a 98 out of 100. Guys, this was a phenomenal beer. If you, as I do, really enjoy big, bold, hoppy, in-your-face IPAs, prefer the West Coast style with more intense bitters, this is one you definitely want to check out. This is the second in the Hoppy Beer sampler that we were reviewing because we've already reviewed the Standard Torpedo and the Pale Ale, but a really good pack of beers there. I would highly recommend checking the store, see if you can pick yourself up a 12-pack. Folks, that is today's review. As always, I do sincerely appreciate you tuning in today. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you want to stay in the loop when our videos go live, just turn on your notifications by hitting that bell. Till next time, keep it beer, keep it craft. We'll see you on the next one. Cheers.